This is the best way to beat defenders with every dribbling technique that I personally know in FIFA 22. Left stick dribbling, agile dribbling, straff dribbling, and of course the L1 stop technique of dribbling in FIFA 22.
Griezmann, 3 men around him and somehow finds some space. Ronaldo, fantastic, opening the drive back.
He's made himself the tiniest bit of space.
It almost feels like a bit of a time. Didn't really go for him. Oh! The display there is absolutely ridiculous. The Elastico on the goal line. On the goal line, the finest.
We talked about AUSSIEFIFA. He's not here to make up the numbers.
Left stick dribbling. I find the best way to actually beat a defender this year in FIFA 22 with the left stick dribbling technique is by keeping your back towards him and basically drawing that defender out, waiting for him to commit either too far to the left or too far to the right, and then bursting off by turning and then tapping the R2 button into the space that is now open, or the side to the defender that is now open, to beat the defender. I find it's a very, very good way of beating defenders this year in FIFA 22, and it's quite simple. You're just using that left stick to go left, right, drawing him out as he commits too far either side, then go to the opposite side and burst off with the R2 button explosive sprint trigger, and that will actually allow you to beat that defender because he's already on the back foot, committed too far to either side. You've then bursted off into the space, which means we are able to use that space and exploit the explosive sprint technique with the left stick dribbling technique and beat that defender. Agile dribbling, it's quite a similar way of actually beating a defender in terms or in comparison to the left stick dribbling technique, but what you do for this is, of course, you need to obviously face up with that defender, and agile dribbling allows us to do that. But you're going left right, you're chopping that left stick, you're going left right, and basically waiting for him to commit either too far to the left or to the right, and then you want to burst off with the R2 button yet again, either left or either right, and basically the player will obviously be on the back foot, as I said, with the left stick dribbling technique. With agile dribbling, it allows us to have a little bit more control to the touch with the left stick. To perform it, you just need to, of course, hold down R1 or RB, and the player will be a lot more responsive to the left stick when you are making those movements with that left stick, and he will have smaller touches in the dribble, which enables you to keep the ball tighter into you, face up with the defender, and utilize the technique that I taught you. Wait for him to commit too far, use the R2 button to sprint off, and utilize that explosive sprint technique with the dribble to beat that defender. STRAFFE dribbling, brought to us in FIFA 20, and I would say it's hit and miss, but this year in FIFA 22 it is quite useful for a specific technique that I like to use when facing up against the opponent and attempting to dribble past him. What you need to do with STRAFFE dribbling this year is basically face up with the opponent, and that's what STRAFFE dribbling allows you to do, is face up with the opponent, drag the ball back and allow him to come towards you. So you need to go up towards the defender with your regular left stick dribbling. You then need to activate the STRAFFE dribbling control, which is of course L1 or LB, and what will happen is the player will drag the ball back with small touches with his tads, and what will happen is he'll go backwards, the defender will approach him, and as he is approaching him, you can then go left, right, feint him off into a specific direction. You can maybe wait for him to commit too far to the left or to the right, and then go to the opposite side and burst off with the R2 explosive sprint control, and in general you can draw him in to actually bring him out of his position, and that's why this is a very, very effective way of dribbling this year in FIFA 22, because you can go approach him, then draw him out. He'll come towards you, then there will be space in behind him because he's come away from his position. You can then burst off with the R2 button into a certain direction to beat that defender. Of course, when you are STRAFFE dribbling, you need to go backwards for this to happen, so you hold down L1 or LB and then point the left analog stick backwards to where the player is facing, and he will remain forward facing, but he will drag the ball back with his tads, and then it will draw the defender in for you to then beat that defender when you burst off either side. The L1 stop technique of dribbling, I believe I'm the only one who has actually done an in-depth tutorial on this way of dribbling, and I don't think many people use this. I think I brought this to YouTube myself, and what you're doing is you're basically using the L1 stop technique of dribbling to then stop the ball instantaneously, wait for the defender to commit too far to the left or to the right, and then bursting off into the space which is available. I find this is a very, very good way of beating defenders, specifically inside the box, because you can face up with him, go left or right with the left stick dribbling control, then tap the L1 button to stop the ball instantaneously, wait for the defender to commit too far to the left or to the right, then go the opposite side to get that shot off. A very, very good way of dribbling and beating the defenders this year in FIFA 22, and you should definitely implement it. And it's simple, lads. It's just the L1 button. The player stops the ball instantaneously with his tads. You can then use the left stick dribbling technique to burst off into the space that is now open. It's a bonus segment for you, but basically beating defenders while sprint dribbling. I've actually gone into an in-depth tutorial on sprint dribbling on the channel, and what I actually didn't put into that in-depth tutorial was the glitched speed dribbling technique that I like to use, where when you're dribbling while sprinting and holding that R2 button or RT button, when you tap L1 or LB as the player takes a touch whilst he's sprint dribbling, he would do a very sharp turn on the dribble, on the sprint dribble, which will enable you to burst off into a certain space or direction past that defender. As you're sprint dribbling towards the defender or alongside him, tap the L1 button as he's taking that touch whilst he's sprint dribbling and point the left analog stick in the direction that you want to do. I find no matter which direction you point, as long as it's relatively in front of the player, he will burst into that direction that you point with the left analog stick and enable you to beat that defender as he is jockeying you. And the reason why this works so well is because obviously when you're sprinting, it's hard to adapt to the actual dribble when you're using speed jockeying motion, which means it makes it a lot harder for your opponent to defend against. And that's why I find it's a very, very effective way of beating defenders when dribbling in FIFA 22. So there you have it, lads. There is 5 dribbling techniques and 5 ways of beating defenders in FIFA 22, and the best ways of actually beating those defenders with those techniques in FIFA 22. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want more in-depth versions of those dribbling techniques, they're on the channel, so go and check them out, lad, and hopefully that will remedy some of your questions or queries about these dribbling techniques. But as always, I give myself a plug. I'm doing tutorials on Instagram and TikTok. Go and check them out. Links are in the description down below. We will keep in touch over there, lads, so be sure to go and follow me on those platforms. But as always, I hope you have a good day. I'm out. Sayonara, au revoir, adios, salam, ciao, goodbye.